Hi, I'm Sarah Kelly, and I'm here today with Bob Pyle, my field educator. Hi, Bob.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I have some questions for Bob. Today we're going to talk about Trend 3, which is today's students, digital natives, are accustomed to cell phones, computers, and the internet, which make them much different than other generations, and they will need different skills for tomorrow's world. So, Bob, my first question to you is, can you see a difference of growing up in your generation compared to kids in today's generation?
Oh, absolutely. When I grew up, I'm old anyhow, but we didn't have cell phones, computers, or anything. So the idea of multitasking or having your brain wired, hardwired like kids do today was unheard of. But now, I watch my daughters, they're 21 to 19, that they could, and even when they were in high school, you could talk on the cell phone, maybe watch TV, listen to music, do homework, type on the computer. So multitasking is a way of life now. So that's just the way kids are wired. So I think as we've evolved over time, kids have just naturally adapted to that, and it's second nature. Where we didn't have that back in the day too. So
Okay. What is your take on the skills that our students need in a global world, such as the job market?
well, thinking going back, like I said, because I'm old, I think about our area, which was predominantly steel mills. You talk to your dad, his dad, his granddad. You thought about going to work at a certain place, and you retired from that place. So you didn't look outside normally, maybe your city, your local geographic area, because you knew there were enough jobs. So now today, kids don't have that luxury because you're not going to go someplace today and retire out of that place. So now, when kids, and this is what I tell my daughters especially, when you're going for a job interview, you have no idea where that other person is. That other person could be sitting in Tokyo, they could be sitting in Russia, they could be sitting in Iceland, where it may be, and your prospective boss may be sitting, say, maybe in Hong Kong. So, it well, you have to bring a different set of skills to the table whenever you're competing because it's just not in your own backyard anymore.
Okay. Um, do you feel that we equip our kids to compete for a job globally?
That's honestly, that's a great question because being in a cyber situation, I actually had a family that was from here. They went to Germany, and three of the kids went to high school. It's called, oddly enough, John F. Kennedy High School in Berlin, Germany. But getting the transcript back, kids that were in Germany, or else even kids that transferred into that school, if you were a German student, you had to speak what they called mother language, which was German.
Mm-hmm.
The other requisite course you had to take was English, but you also had to take a foreign language. So that could be Spanish, German, or whatever. So now you have a student, not only do they speak German, they had to speak English, but they also had to pick another language. So basically, you have fluency in two languages. Do we do that here in the United States? Uh, Probably not. I can think back when I was in high school, you took maybe foreign language and it wasn't mandatory. So our kids come out now with one language. Now, if you think about it, some people say now, well, Chinese is the language of commerce now because of the increased explosion in the Chinese economy. Where it used to be, we talked about, well, everybody had to know Spanish, but kids have to be equipped now, but just to be multilingual because they said they're not looking at just this little piece of the universe where they're going to get a job at. They're competing with other kids. So who's more equipped now? Do you have a kid that has one language, you can speak English, or do you have a kid now that has three languages that they're proficient underneath their belt? So kids have to think about that. That to me is equipping a student globally to succeed.
Okay. Thinking in terms of digital society and the way kids interact today, do you think that we prepare our students to be adept at social discourse and dealing with problems or disputes?
That's also pretty interesting too because I think about my daughters, Facebook, text messages, MySpace, going back some things. Just making random posts or not having engaged conversation. It's all done. I want to call it nonverbal, but it's typing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about what we had to do when I grew up, you talk to that person face to face. Kids sometimes are so isolated and so polared that they don't talk to people like that. So now when you get a text message, how many times have you, Sarah, have you read an email or text message and you read something into that that may not generally be there? because it's words. So you have a certain, I want to say, if you're looking at it with blinders on, but you have a certain way that you're going to read that. Now, if you go back to the old days when everybody talked face to face, and at some point in time, kids are going to have to do that when you get into the job market, because whether it be by interview or if you're working with clients, but at some point in time, you're going to have to talk to somebody face to face. Are we necessarily doing that? Um, Maybe yes, maybe no. How can we prepare kids for that? What I do when I teach is I make sure the kids can see me, so as I talk, they can see my facial expressions along with my intonation. Kids now, I don't think we do enough maybe as far as maybe public speaking, but we have to. Technology is great, don't get me wrong. Cell phones, everything else that you can do with the phone is great, but we need to also go back and say, look, we're also human beings too. And a fundamental way of communication with human beings is talking, not texting, not using our thumbs. It's actually talking, sitting down, watching somebody's body language, facial structures, the way that somebody's reacting, and also voice intonation. That, to me, is equipping students to succeed in the future and also in a global context, because then that way they are more adept at social engagement, and like I said, they're not as likely to read something out of context and want to respond in a confrontational manner, which could escalate a dispute. I
Great.
don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. It does. All right, great. Well, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you answering those questions.
No problem. Thank you.
One article I found that was useful was Modeling Digital Natives International Collaboration, Finnish Korean Experiences of Environmental Education. This was written by Lepasari and Lee. They state that environment study is often used in global education. It requires international collaboration and an understanding of being connected globally despite culture, race, and nationality. They also state direct interaction and communication with students from other cultures can be one of the most effective ways to comprehend and learn about cultural differences. Another resource I found was on YouTube. It was a video called Collaboration in the 21st Century. This was by Sir Ken Robinson. He talked about creativity, innovation, and collaboration. He said that creativity and innovation need to be systematic. He also stated that collaboration is the key operating principle in the next phase of development in the 21st century. My 3 goals are as follows. Goal number 1, students need to work in culturally diverse collaborative groups. This will force students to break up into teams. Goal number 2, students need to work on project-based assignments. This will force students to interact with one another and share responsibility. And goal number 3, make part of the course orally presented assignments in front of peers. This promotes students to effectively speak to peers and use eye contact, which avoids students from using digital devices to convey information. Thank you for viewing my second field-based activity.